Guys, how you doing? I'm David. I'm 18 years old and faculty of tourism and hotels and a member of whynotteanf. So today we gotta teach you how to draw. We got 6 steps to draw. Step number 1, get your materials. Step number 2, you choose an object like a cup. Step number 3, you break down the shapes. Step number 4, you shade an outline. Step number 5, you shade in your drawings. Step number 6, you know when to. Let's try these cups and I will go over some of the very basic but very important lessons for drawing. So let's get it started. I will talk about a process along the way. Alright, so let's draw some cups, and I know that you are probably thinking this is too easy for you, but believe me, if you are a beginner artist, this is a very important, because the cup is kind of like a basic geometry shape, and a lot of more complex things are basically just a bunch of simple geometries but together. So alright, let's get to the cup. And so alright, the first you want to do when you are drawing these cups is to be able to make this kind of elliptical, okay? And this is very important, because if you are drawing too sharp, and a lot of beginners, what they will do is, let's say you are drawing like a tire or the surface of the cup, they will actually draw like this, right? Or the curvature is kind of odd, and what happens is they end up doing these little corners way too sharp, and that is just not how any elliptical goes. Okay, so that's what some major errors are that I see when people do these kind of simple geometries. So there's actually quite a lot of round curvature right around the side. I mean, it gets a little bit more and more step, acute by there's still curvature there. So don't ever make a chart because this is gonna be wrong. So that's one of the first point wrong about drawing a thing like this, like a cup. Alright, so let's continue on with this. I'm just going go down, and this is another challenge to make something that is symmetrical is actually very different, and it is not an easy thing to do on both sides. Alright, so you can see it is like my curvatures, slightly different on both sides, and I mean, symmetry is tough, just try drawing a vase interview. If you are doing like a vase, you have this curvature here, and try to do on the other side is actually very different. So let's just go with it. And then another important point about drawing, this is the bottom of when you are doing the bottom, it's the same curvature as is, but smaller. In case of this cup, because it tapers in, you want to do is you want to draw it by actually sketching what is behind the cup. Don't stop, don't just come down and go around, because you are going to miss the curvature. This thing, so if you shade it in sketch in it, you like this is get much more curve. And this is a very important point, is that whenever you are drawing something, this is 3 dimension. You know what to sketch in the back tape, because that will give a lot of you will be able to visualize this whole shape a lot better. Alright, so let's roughing the handle, and then you will get into the shading this thing. I don't have to draw it, super accurate, obviously, because it's just a cup. I just kind of wanna to talk about how you can shade something like this. Okay, so this is very almost like an ear. Okay, so once we have this and we can outline, this is a bit of if you want to, I'm using 2B, so I won't be able to go too dark, so let's just start shading. This is okay. I will go over some of the more important stuff. Okay, this lip, here's some volume to it. So let's see, it comes up here. I'm not gonna actually draw it in the whole line, because it's not really, the line is not ready. There is, there's a very smooth lip on the cup. So we kind of, we're going to define that more by shading. Okay, so here is the lip, so you can see how there's so many reference lines, even on some things as simple as a cup. Alright, so we are gonna shade this and now this is around, obviously, the cylinder, so this part here is gonna be dark, and you can see that on the reference, right? So this is gonna be dark, and you got some comes all the way down slowly, reflective, right? Light here, but some of you guys can't see it, but let me get this a quick shaver. You're very rough, there's a lot of spaces in between, right? It's not necessarily, because it is still early in this shading stage. So this part right here is dark as well, and there's a little bit of reflective stuff from the handle, which is because this is either some kind of ceramic or porcelain, so this is a reflective surface. Okay, so here's alright shade on this, and then let's do a little bit on the top here too. It's a little bit just darker up, so okay. And then now the inside, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because inside here is dark, it is a graduation, so you have this one edge, right here, that's dark because light is hitting it, not hit this part, and this is where it's gonna give actually your cup a lot of three-dimensionally. So this lip right here, okay, and this inside is a little bit darker. This is in here is a little bit darker because the lip is a little bit lighter, because this is around the surface, so it's gonna catch some of the light. Okay, and then right here I'm gonna make let's suppose push it one step forward. Let's go ahead and do what, so I'm gonna push it a little bit, harder. Here cross-catching, so I'm shading here, this is near this lip, here a little bit darker, and that gives it a little more construct, from the lip. So now you kind of feel that this lip is actually coming forward right. So you get a little bit more and more realism as you do these kind of letter shading. So let's go on to the another part area. So right here is a little bit darker. I guess the lip is wider and a part need to go in, and maybe you raise some of the a little bit harder to do here, just kind of raise outline a little bit of you. So in that case the lip is white. Okay, so I'm gonna make that even darker. Okay, so now you starting to feel that the volume of this cup. Alright, so you see this cup is actually here. You can see why it is, if you wanna do, like a nicely shaded cup. It's not that easy having, but it's just a good exercise. So alright, here is a little bit darker. According to this photo, it's obviously they cropped it out from the background, so that's why this part right here is not getting any kind of reflection. Alright, and so let's handle this. Let's see, this is a little bit darker. Okay, because it's kind of the same thing, like as this side, right? This is right here is dark, and then this is a storage. Then the handle of rider is dark or red, connected, because I'm using a 2B. I'm pushing down into the paper, and you see that it is not very dark, and this is actually a little bit tricky to do because there's a very slight gradation, and you're kind of need that these edges to be a little bit darker, because it's a round surface night. It's like a tape, so if you don't draw the edges kind of dark, you are not get that effect. So this is a little bit tedious. Okay, well, I won't go into it too much. Okay, so I'm just kind of outlining a little bit, not too much. Alright, so it's still very light. So in order to make it more realistic, just kind of go in and shade a little bit more. So right here is darker. I know there is highlights here to you. No, you can see so far highlights on a cup, so you can actually just kind of the circle and then shade around it. You can do that. So this part right here is distinction. Right here is darker. Okay, so would be your cup. Alright, so I hope this video is helping you. See you next time. So today we learned how to draw a cup. I hope this video is helping you, and see you next time. Stay home, stay safe.